It was an ordinary afternoon when Sarah, the owner of a small corner store, first noticed a stray dog hanging around outside her shop. At first, she thought it was just another street animal looking for food, but what caught her attention was how the dog had started coming by every day, almost at the same time, lingering outside the store. Sarah had a soft spot for animals, having grown up with pets, but she never imagined that this particular dog would change her life in ways she could not have predicted. It started small. The dog would sneakily dart into the store, grabbing some food from the shelves, and before Sarah could stop it, it would run out, leaving behind an empty space where her merchandise used to be. She chuckled at first, thinking it was amusing how bold the dog was. But as the days went by, Sarah started to notice something odd. The dog wasn't just grabbing anything from the shelves. It seemed to have a preference. The food always went for cans of dog food and packets of meat, which struck Sarah as a little unusual. Why would a stray dog steal dog food when there were plenty of other things to choose from? Sarah decided to keep a closer eye on the situation. One afternoon, she saw the dog come inside, grab a few cans, and dart out again. She quickly locked up the store and decided she would follow the animal to see where it was going. As she walked behind the dog at a distance, her curiosity grew. The dog led her down the street and through the alleyways, into a rundown part of town that Sarah was unfamiliar with. It wasn't the type of area where someone would expect to see a stray dog hanging around, and as she continued walking, she started to worry about what she might find. After a few minutes of walking, the dog finally stopped in front of a dilapidated house. Sarah's heart sank as she saw the dog carefully nudge the door open with its nose and slip inside. She stood there frozen, unsure what to do next, but her worry quickly gave way to determination. She needed to know why this dog had been stealing food, especially when it seemed so specific about what it was taking. Sarah took a deep breath and knocked gently on the door. It creaked open, revealing a woman sitting in a dusty chair inside, her face drawn with exhaustion and sadness. The woman looked at Sarah with surprise but didn't say anything, so Sarah introduced herself and asked if everything was all right. The woman hesitated before nodding slowly, saying that she had fallen on hard times and was trying to make do. She explained that she had been struggling to feed herself and her children, who were sick, and that she had no other way of getting food. Sarah's heart clenched, and she asked if there was anything she could do to help. The woman looked down, her face full of shame, and told Sarah that she had no other choice but to rely on the dog to bring her food. The dog, it turned out, was a stray that had somehow found its way to her doorstep months ago. The woman had fed the dog, and in return, it had started bringing her food from the store. At first, it was just a few small items, bread, milk, and whatever scraps the dog could scavenge. But as the woman's situation worsened, the dog became her lifeline, stealing food from nearby stores to keep her and her children from going hungry. She hadn't been able to stop it because she didn't have the means to feed the dog herself, and she didn't know what else to do. Sarah stood there, stunned, as she processed a woman's words. The dog, she realized, wasn't just a stray looking for food. It was doing its best to take care of someone in need. It was risking its own safety to bring nourishment to this family who had no other means of support. Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she thought about how this innocent creature was trying so hard to make a difference, even though it was often scorned by society for simply trying to survive. Without thinking, Sarah stepped forward and hugged the woman tightly. She told her that she would do everything she could to help. Sarah returned to her store and began preparing a large box of food, not just dog food, but everything that the woman and her children might need. She carefully packed canned goods, fresh produce, and other items she knew would help them get by. The next day, Sarah went back to the woman's house with a box, knocking gently on the door again. This time, the woman's eyes widened in disbelief as Sarah explained that she had brought some food to help. She couldn't believe the kindness that Sarah was showing her. Sarah also offered to help the woman find a way to get back on her feet, whether it was through connecting her with local resources or helping her find a job. The woman accepted gratefully, overwhelmed with emotion, and the dog, the one who had started it all, wagged its tail happily, as if it knew that it had brought about something much bigger than it could have imagined. Sarah continued to visit the woman and her children, bringing food and checking in on them regularly. Over time, the woman found new opportunities, and her situation began to improve. It wasn't easy, but with the help of Sarah and the dog, the family slowly rebuilt their lives. Sarah was amazed by the bond that formed between her and this family, and especially by the selflessness of the dog, who had been a catalyst for everything. She had always known that animals could be loyal, but she had never imagined that one would go so far to help a stranger in need. As for the stray dog, it found its own home, not just with a woman, but with Sarah too. From that day forward, the dog had a place at Sarah's store. No longer a stray, it had become part of the family. It no longer had to steal food because Sarah made sure it had plenty to eat, and the dog's daily visits became a reminder of the unexpected ways in which kindness and compassion can transform lives. As Sarah reflected on the events that had unfolded, she realized that sometimes the smallest act of kindness, even those carried out by a stray dog, can change everything. She would never forget the day she followed the dog, not knowing that it would lead her to something far greater than she ever could have imagined. And every time she saw the dog sitting outside her store, wagging its tail, she was reminded that sometimes the greatest gifts come from the most unexpected places.